Okay, welcome to the April meeting of TTAC for Culture Policy Area Planning Agency. We'll call the meeting to order and just jump right in and start off with item A on our agenda, which is introductions. Start down with Joe from around the table.
Joe Susi, Vista Public Works Department.
More State of Nebraska DOT District 2.
Andy Riggs, Potawatomi County.
Austin Rouser, City of Omaha.
Travis Gibbons, City of Plain. John Crater, City of Bellevue. Jim Borner, MAPA.
Brian Guy, City of Omaha.
Court Barber, MAPA.
Matt Olander, MAPA.
Great, great city right now.
Mark Augustine, City of House Walls.
Jared Walker, Nebraska DOT Strategic Planning.
Christy Evans, City of Omaha.
Mike Seven, City of Pavilion.
Eric Williams, Matthew Leonardi.
Carlos Morales, MAPA.
Audio West, MAPA. Lisa Manuel, MAPA. Lindsay Butt, MAPA.
Adam Denny, Tolbert, Colton Holman.
Tim Adams, WSB. Jeff Subject, City of Omaha.
Joan Green, ENA.
Jason Carvey, HDM.
And I just want to extend a warm welcome to Matt and Avia, who joined our transportation team. This is their first meeting and actually their third week on the job, so give them hell, everyone. Cover them with questions. They're fully compliant with 2 CFR 200 as of right now. Just kidding, but a warm welcome to them. They're joining our team and will be great assets as we move forward.
Online introductions. Anyone online would like to announce their presence?
Zach Kurgenrader, Sarpy County.
Dave Godington, City of Bellevue.
Dan Carpenter, Benish.
Yusuf Dana, High Street.
Matt Cox, Council Bluffs Public Works.
Damian Stern and DOT District 2.
Let's be good. Well, thank you, everyone who's here, both in person and online. Appreciate all of your participation. Item B is our action items. So our first item for approval is approval of minutes from the March 20th, 2026 meeting. Is there any discussion? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second. Motion and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Who provided that second? Thanks.
Item B2 is our 2026 Transportation Improvement Program Amendment number 5.
That's me. All right, so that's a little hard to see. Well, I'm gonna tell you about it anyway, so we've got 2 changes for City of Omaha projects, 1 change for City of La Vista project. We are updating the description of, so we've had a City of Omaha project in the tip for basically assistance with doing some roundabout projects that Omaha hadn't really nailed down exactly where they wanted to use it. They've made that decision. They're gonna be doing a roundabout at 42nd and Continental Boulevard. So we've updated the title, description, location, all that stuff. And then we also went ahead and kind of cleaned up the funding on it. There's no additional local funding in that, but there is additional state provided HSIP funding, Highway Safety Improvement Program funding. So we're adding some funding in 2030 and 2031. Basically for a right-of-way acquisition, as well as about 1.2 million in 2031 or 2030, between 2030 and 2031 for construction. And then in addition to that, City of Omaha Signal Infrastructure Phase 1, we're adding 420,000 in CMAQ funding for preliminary stuff this year. So the we hadn't captured some of the CMAQ funding that was going to go into that project. That also has regional STBG funds in it. So it sort of impacts a regionally selected project, but it's state directed funding that we're changing on it. It's not actually an impact to the regional program. And then we're making some adjustments to the preliminary phases of City of La Vista's Thompson Creek Trail. So This project had a bit of a cost increase on it, both on the preliminary phases as well as construction. We're not changing the award at this time, so we're actually reducing the amount we have programmed for construction and moving that into the preliminary phases so that they may continue moving the project forward. There'll actually be a conversation at the project selection committee meeting next Thursday about what we want to do with that cost increase. They've taken the request to TAP-C. There's not enough funding in the TAP program, so TAP-C is making a request of the project selection committee for SDBG funds, and we'll discuss that at that meeting later this month, and then that will ultimately come back likely in the draft tip, whatever action is determined for that. But at least for right now, we're amending the 26 steps so they can at the very least keep the project going, getting through MAPA and final time. Questions on Amendment 5? Otherwise, we're asking for a recommendation to approve to the Board of Directors.
Okay, any questions, comments from the group? Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Motion, second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed, same side? Motion passes. Okay, item B3 is our 2050 mini grant committee recommendation review. Fourth.
Still me. All right, so the Harlan 2050 mini grant committee met, I don't know, a few weeks ago. I don't remember what the actual date was. Sometime between the last TTAC meeting and this meeting. They are recommending funding for all of the project applications. Comes out to about $1.3 million in total awards. Just for everybody, or a refresher, that this committee is made up of one member of MAPA staff and then two members from TTAC and two members from the Regional Planning Advisory Committee, another of MAPA's advisory committees. And it was, remind me, who's on the mini grant committee? Christie and, oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, and Mark McLaughlin from the city of Omaha. And then from our pack, it was Bruce Fountain and Chris Gibbs with the city of Iowa. Our city of Gallup Bluffs in Iowa. City of Iowa. Now Iowa City is in a different part of the state. So as far as kind of like the layout for the program itself, we set a $330,000 annual target. The committee is recommending funding, basically stretching out these projects over the next 4 years. So over the next 3 years, we did not do a selection for 26. This will be for the 27 program. So we're looking at 4 years worth of funding, which is basically $1.3 million worth of funding. We have $1.3 million worth of requests. So it basically fits pretty neatly into that. That $330,000 it's kind of a target for the mini grant program. Some years we've actually gone a little bit over, some years we've gone a little bit under. So it's not like something that was set, like not a limit necessarily, but this is coming kind of right up to that target as far as the availability, kind of what we have estimated in the tip, the placeholder in there. So we're basically asking for so in addition to a recommendation from the mini grant committee itself, this has already gone to RPAC. RPAC has said that they want to carry that recommendation forward. We're asking for the same from TTAC today. So basically a recommendation to our board to affirm the mini grant committee's recommendation on this budget.
I like that program. I like balancing it out over years, getting the funding spread out.
Yeah, we were doing them kind of year to year. And that became a little bit of a challenge as far as like planning. For most of these projects, MAPA administers contracts to kind of reduce the burden on the local entities. And it's difficult for us to plan out when we're doing it year to year, giving us kind of 4 years to look out and say, all right, we can do these this year. It kind of helps us plan a little bit better for our staff time.
Or are those administered through MAPA's on-call then, or are they?
It depends, that's kind of the purpose of the on-call, yeah, like that, it makes it easier for us to start these projects up. So most of them are, at least some of them will be delivered to the on-call, some of them may not, depends on the particular, like, the need, you know, and kind of what we see in the capacity of the folks who are on the on-call list, but yes, at least some of them will be delivered to that.
Any other questions or comments from court?
Can you remind us of the funding source here? You've got it scheduled over future years. Is
Yeah.
the funding,
It's STBG.
okay, so
Yeah.
I guess I was curious about federal funding stability going forward. Just making sure we understand, if we fund these now, is there any risk that the funding that goes into this gets modified in a way that makes these projects not able to be completed?
I would say that that's, yeah, when we're coming up on the end of an existing funding law, that's always a risk. But STBG is like very well liked program, I guess you could say, like, it's very flexible, it's very useful, yeah. The likelihood of STBG going away is much lower than some of the concerns we have about the other programs.
And then if projects are completed in a sooner timeline, so the policy study is expected to be done within a year, the reimbursements of that, the expenditure is acceptable in a much shorter timeline than the full 3 years, is that right? Or?
Yeah, like the planning, the way that this is being laid out in the program, and I don't have all this stuff programmed in the 27 tip yet, but it'll be clear how we're laying it out once we bring the draft tip in May. Some of these might end up being a little bit front loaded, and then some of them fall towards the end, so but yeah, there's not a. Basically, the funding for the E-moto policy would be. It would be immediately available once it's in the tip, does that make sense?
Did you have that in the last slide? We kind of prioritized which projects we think needed to be in here,
Right.
E-moto and some of the other ones. The mobility hubs, our program later, so we
Yeah.
did over those 4 years kind of organize. Should go first.
Just making sure that all the program sponsors know what the timeline is for completing the work that they've got outlined there. If it is needed to be over 3 years,
It'll
they'll
go.
know that that's.
The timing of everything will go out in the award letters, which we're hoping to have out earlier than we normally do. And then we will actually have, so for the E-moto policy, that's being recommended for. But basically, that's gonna go into a 26 tip, so we'll do an amendment to the 26 program and roll that in that way. So that's how that'll move forward.
Yeah, and that's a small portion of the overall total, just making sure the other sponsors are also aware of the timeline of the availability of implementation funding toward the work that they've got scheduled.
They will be made aware.
Right.
If they're not already, because some of the, Mark was on the committee, and so I think there's 2 or 3 Omaha projects in there.
Sounds good, thanks.
Yep. But no, Christy, I don't actually have the schedule here today.
Okay, Lindsay had it at the RPAC meeting, I think, so.
Okay, yeah, I don't know, I didn't really think about it, but it will be presented when I bring the draft in. Yeah.
So we have a motion on this?
Representative from the committee. Any motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor, say aye. Opposed, same side. Motion carries. Alright, item B4. Safe streets for all, final round of applications, Jim.
All right, good morning, everybody. Here, go to the next slide, please. For some of you, if you were here last month's TTAC meeting, these slides will look familiar. We received the NOPO a week after TTAC. And so I'm going to give you some quick updates and then give you details on MAPA's proposed supplemental planning and demonstration activity. So a couple things here. There was confirmation that there's a limit 1 application per applicant, and so we're being strategic here and working with fellow partners. And if you all haven't talked with us and would like to submit one as a member jurisdiction, please do so, and we'll support and make sure all of our applications are consistent. So you can do supplemental planning that enhances an action plan that could be MAPA's comprehensive safety action plan or the City of Omaha's Vision Zero action plan. Demonstration informs an update to the action plan. That's what we're doing. We're submitting a combined supplemental planning and demonstration. Application and implementation, again, are those formal projects and strategies that are already identified in your action plan. So we are going to apply for EMS capacity building, a major component of which will be EMS whole blood. City of Omaha and City of Bellevue both have this capacity and are up and running. And then it's just it's new, I guess, for us to talk about it. TTAC is new, but just within the region, across the nation, really there's a lot of learning curve. So we intend to pilot it on a limited scale with Bennington, Waterloo, Gretna, and Council Bluffs fire departments. And with the rest of the fire departments as well, you know, kind of learn that practice, best practice, and get to a point where ideally, if these are program funds, we'll look to apply programmatically, or if it's still discretionary, it would allow for implementation funding in the future. So new here too is 2024 forest data became available since last month. So we have an upward trend. We have an identified need. We don't know exactly what these numbers mean because we don't have a lot of the underlying data that describes each of these individual fatalities or the EMS action or the trauma center action. But we want to help all of these organizations get better so we can really do more with less. The volunteer fire departments in particular are already strapped and they're responding to more frequent events, and I would say more significant events. A lot of those are weather related, but whiteout on I-80 in particular, I think it was over 13 fire departments that eventually responded. And so they have to have more, and so this is a really good opportunity. I'd like to highlight again, nationally, 43% of people who died in a crash in 2023 were alive. When EMS arrived for our region, that's 63%. So we'd like to better understand what that 20% means and really kind of work towards the end of the day, letting somebody survive a traffic crash. Next slide. So a couple of things to highlight. The NOVO prioritizes public safety infrastructure, and that specifically calls out whole blood programs, but that's everything from law enforcement responding to traffic crashes as well as EMS and providers. But it's more than that. So there's an opportunity for improvements to 911 services, just coordination generally, communications. And so when we looked at each of those, we kind of made sure that we narrowed our scope. And so we're not including those right away, but there's a whole range of things that if you see a need, safe streets could potentially be a solution. High fatality rates. As a region, our fatality rate by population is actually kind of low, which is good. We're a little over 6 fatalities per 100,000 persons, but there are regions, of course, with lower populations that see those higher fatality rates, but they also have higher traffic volumes, and so they see those additional crashes. So strategic selection in Bennington, Waterloo, and Gretna, they're already experiencing that high traffic volume, and so it just makes sense to bring in that capacity. And then finally, rural areas are prioritized by the administration as well. These will be tiebreakers, so if our application kind of gets put in a pool, then they have to decide who wins. But the rural and high fatality rate would be something that would allow us to move to the top. Next slide. So I love this map. This is great. This shows the importance of working regionally. So the areas in Douglas County that are green are the Bennington, Waterloo fire departments. So the applicants for the whole blood. And then down in Sarpy County, of course, it's Gretna's fire department, fire district, and Council Bluffs serves the city of Council Bluffs. So again, Omaha and Bellevue already having whole blood capacity. And then if you look at the legend there, you have everything from individual fire teams to combination teams covering areas between fire departments as well. So this is gonna be a lot of fun. It's gonna be a lot of work, but I think it's another area to really kind of work together to get better. Next slide. So again, just highlighting what we're doing. This is temporary. We're gonna do a pilot, and I'll get to a schedule here later, but it is small scale. That doesn't mean that we don't want to provide capacity or help other communities and fire departments. But we just thought this was narrowing down, getting to a group that's geographically spread, but still, providing the opportunity for everybody to learn. We'll see where we end up. We're under $1 million right now, but depending upon planning and data needs, we might see ourselves going up. Really, what that means is from from a 2 to 3 page narrative. A lot of the supplemental planning is collecting data and analyzing. So we'll be doing data collection throughout and reporting, and that's going to be a major component of the MAPA work, along with probably some consultant support. We'll lead, the fire departments will provide 20% on the equipment purchases. We're looking into options for local match, otherwise for planning. This is going to be a 4-year study for MAPA staff, and we'd anticipate for consultant support anywhere from 2 to 2.5 years during the demonstration portion and kind of development of the plan updates. And our goal is to be up and running by FY28. MAPA. Lots of little words, but the first year is kind of buying that equipment, getting the training for the departments on that equipment. And this is not just whole blood, this is updated extrication equipment. So just your jaws of life, and then stabilization for vehicle stabilization to get into and provide that life-saving care. Demonstration and planning, they operate with that equipment as they need for 2 years, collect a lot of data. We report that data back to Federal Highway, and then we close out. That closeout will include an update to our comprehensive safety action plan. And again, that would enable future funding sources to really kind of look towards implementation and come up with a regional program. Next slide. So 60 days isn't a lot of time, unfortunately. So we get that application in late March. We're in that application drafting stage, and then we'll look to finalize and submit ideally early to mid-May. And in that time period of waiting to award notice, we're going to be doing a lot of work on front loading any RFQs as necessary or considerations for that consultant help, as well as making sure we're continuing to work with the trauma and EMS communities. So for others of you, members of TTAC, or just members that would like to apply, if you're within Douglas and Sarpy County, or Council Bluffs, Carter Lake, Crescent, McClellan, you're eligible to apply. We'll hear from others here so regionally there's an opportunity. We're going to do some overlapping work, but please reach out if you're considering something as soon as possible. You can reach out to me and we can talk and make sure that we get you the help you need to be successful. So we'll be taking to board of directors next week a resolution basically looking for their commitment to support our supplemental planning and demonstration activity. And that's why we've asked this to be an action item here today. I'm happy to answer any questions you may.
There's been some question within the city of Omaha about the whole blood program, because we get one application. I'm viewing this as a MAP application as regional, would preclude us from submitting another application.
And that's how I understand it. And you're right, we do need to coordinate closely. One of the items in the application process itself is I'll forget the term, but basically an acknowledgement. We will include a letter from the city of Omaha that says, here's what we're doing in our application, and here's why it stands alone as a funding need, and it's separate from the work that we're doing, and conversely we'll do the same. So, but yeah, we'll coordinate that.
Yeah, and I think part of how we started some of this conversation was with the state trauma board. And so there are other conversations that we're trying to have at a statewide level. I mean, the numbers are not mine, right? We see a need, and I think we're trying to aggregate and understand it a little bit more. What does it take to actually do this? How do we build that internal capacity and connection points? I think there's more to happen at the state, and we would definitely appreciate the city of Omaha and others coming on board with those conversations, right? Those conversations can continue and will continue to happen regardless of having SS4A. And so that's kind of the key thing. We're keeping our eye on the prize. This is something that we see a benefit. I think it's a great conversation, sir.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions or comments? I think that's two great programs. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
I'll second.
Motion second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. That concludes our action items. We'll move into C, which is our discussion items. The first item, C1, is public comment. Any member of the public in attendance is allowed to speak. This is your opportunity. Hearing none, we'll move to item C2, which is the legislative update. Staff will be provided.
Maybe if Mike was gonna do this, but maybe he didn't log on. Anyway, I'll take his place. Hey, we're near the end of this session. A couple quick notes. LB 1126 passed. Again, this was the development of the Infrastructure Development and Investment Program Act. Led by MDOT, trying to establish a way for innovative finance to take shape and form throughout the region and throughout the state. Very cool. S 2394 withdrawn. This is the SUDA's board that Matt had told us about. And SF 2472 in Iowa passed the Ways and Means. This is property tax bill, indexing gas tax to inflation. So kind of interesting. I think part of what we're also trying to do is, okay, so this session ended. And we open up the discussion to see if there are certain things within the region, within the body of work from all of you that is of interest, that we could keep a better tab on next year, the next session, or work on ways to introduce and or push forward some work. Obviously, the red light running was one of the bills that contained interest within this body. It will require a lot more work than just having a red light running bill. There are a host of other things as we're finding out, but that's still a priority within MAPA and part of the region. But if there are others, happy to entertain, listen, discuss. Or you can send me an email and let me know.
I think one of the challenges that we're seeing and will continue to see in the coming years is that as we budget with gas tax revenues for operations, you know, see a lot of wage inflation, a lot of commodity inflation, contract inflation. We have declining revenues with gas tax, so there's we're getting to a point where that's becoming difficult. So I don't know if at a state level, if we need to start getting some information out, looking for other ways to creatively fund operations. OEM is obviously really important to the life cycle of anything you do to bill. So we need to make sure that we're funded at the right levels to match that. So that's food for thought for the coming years.
On that, does anybody know what the last update to the gas tax was? Been a while though, right?
It's a few years there.
Is it, if Iowa did an index to inflation back, I can't remember what Nebraska's.
Yeah, I think a penny generates 14 billion, I believe is my word. So, you know, there are some adjustment factors in there for inflation where there's some room to administratively change it based on inflationary factors, but obviously it's something that's looked at again.
The variable component is what you're referring to, and that's just done to kind of right size it with the program, but there's a lot of discussion. The motor fuel tax obviously probably needs to go up a little bit, but I think we can all recognize that that's not going to move the needle enough to address. There's the motor vehicle registration fee that hasn't changed generally for 60 years almost. So there's consideration being given there. Some other things with Build Nebraska Act, both a potential consideration to grow that from a 0.25% to 0.5%, but also expand how those funds can be used away from simple capital projects and full reconstruction to potential re-R, maintenance activities, those sorts of things. And then the infrastructure review task force is also taking a look at other opportunities, other things that other states are doing, other ways to generate revenue. LD 1126 with Transportation Innovation Act. There's a kind of a transportation in the TIA Transportation Innovation Bank, infrastructure bank is in there, but we're looking at developing an actual state infrastructure bank. Working with Build America Bureau on that, trying to grow that. We're still hoping for good news on the Regional Infrastructure Accelerator, which would provide additional technical assistance towards developing that state infrastructure bank. And then the legislature would also have to figure out how to fund that infrastructure bank. That is completely intended to assist project development and delivery at the local level. So a lot of different things going on right now at in Lincoln to figure out all the things.
I did hear whispers of good news about the regional infrastructure accelerator.
There are whispers. We've heard whispers for about 9-10 months, so.
Sounds like that's good, could be about the breaks. It's good news.
Right now, there's a bill in the Iowa legislature. I think it still has to go through the Senate on indexing the gas tax to an inflation rate. So stay tuned on that one.
Appreciate the update. No further discussion on this item. We'll move on to item C3, which is member agency updates. Certain permittings and jump into there, most other stuff.
Sure, just a couple items. 84th Street Bridge project between Harrison and Giles. Southbound has got about 60 more days completion, then they'll flip that and start on the northbound section of that bridge. 99th and Giles Road, a signal project there. They got one more section of sidewalk and 88 ramps for, and they should be powering that signal probably next week and be out of there and get that back open. And then the Giles Road widening project from I-80 to West Giles Road, that is in right-of-way acquisition on 8 miles. That project continues to move forward. That was it.
Okay. All right, 480 Missouri River Bridge. We're done painting the girders. They're now working on the inside half of the bridge, both eastbound and westbound. And traffic is down to one lane. Getting on, and then you're merging with one lane that's coming from the west. Let's see what else we got here. Oh, we've completed the 680 high mast towers. That's done. We got a little bit left to do on Dodge from 156 to 132nd. There's permanent striping and bridge nosing. It'll be completed this spring. We finished Union Highway 34, Union to Burke. That's 72nd L. I just came by there this morning on the way down here. They're pouring the 2 eastbound lanes from 72nd east to the existing. So that'll be done, should be done today. Let's see, 680 Pacific to Dodge. We're adding a northbound lane. We're widening the bridge over the patio. Let's see, they've shifted traffic and put up concrete barriers on both sides of the road. They're northbound and southbound, and they're working behind them. Let's see, Highway 50 from Nebraska Highway 1 to Louisville. That's underway. They're milling and they'll end up milling overlay. Right now they're doing pavement repairs. They're also gonna put a new bridge deck on the bridge over the Burlington Northern Tracks. They've got that down to one lane, and they're working on the east half of that bridge. Let's see, 275 in West Dodge Roundabout. That's under construction, they've torn out, it's completely closed. They have to use detours to get around. We tore out half of the existing, and guess what we found? Water. So we're gonna core it out, put rock in it, and move on from there. Let's see, okay, I-80 from Highway 50 to 50th Street, that's underway, it's not work. You probably wouldn't notice them yet, but we're marking and they're sawing the pavement repair areas. And that's all we have going. There's some coming up though. Platte River, I-80 from Platte River to Millard East. Concrete sealer, that's not work that it'll start May 4th. We're gonna build a noise wall, I-80 westbound, about 131st Street. I think it's being let. It was supposed to be let last year, or last month. They let it, I think we didn't like the bid, so we're gonna re-let it. And let's see what else, we're gonna do some more bridge work on 75 down in Bellevue. We do the deck repairs to replace the approaches. And let's see, that's all. Next week we'll get started on what's next month.
Awesome. Yeah, we have a lot less. I talked down. We have talked with Jim a little bit already, but we are planning on submitting this for a grant for some demonstration funds. And then after reviewing the safety action plan, we're gonna most likely include a piece about implementation as well, for open highway. So no news yet, but that's where we're at.
Our big bucket of work still continues to be street cars, so we've had some big movement on that. Probably all noticed coming in this morning, we have girders up on the Farm Street Bridge now. It's a big milestone, looking forward to that pour here in a month or two. A lot of work going on with utilities around Turner, that's still ongoing, continue for a few more months. We have actual rail in the ground now on 10th Street, so that's really exciting. So it's moving along. A couple of this, about 33rd Hill. Some of those other projects are coming.
Got started, the intersection shut down, so started the levels. 40th Street should be open in that other lines, I think. Just kind of working on railroad activities there.
Yeah, I didn't mention the Farm Street Bridge will be open to traffic sometime mid late summer, so it's that's moving along really quickly, and we were able to accelerate the project with the contractor, so it's going ahead of schedule. So that'll be good. Reconnect Midtown Farm Street.
I lost my city engineer, so he left, but really our biggest project right now is we just had a open house meeting for the construction of 90th Street to 370 for the Tower District project. So that's gonna be starting construction here in the next few weeks. So that's our big project right now, obviously, and Buckner keeps working on the Cornhusker Road corridor and design plans for that. That's what, yeah, Alex would have to work with. He left behind on.
So City of Bellevue, 36th Street project phase 2, which extends 36th to Platteview, substantially complete in July, is anticipated July 2026. We have a TAP active mobility study that was, we have interviews set up for May 7th. We received 4 proposals. And the last item we have on the MAPA AC resurfacing. That's advertising now, bid opening is May 14th.
Regret that's the year of planning yet, working with DOT on the 192nd Street interchange, that's basically letting dates into the year. Corresponding to the project that will probably be bidding in October with the county. It's a 192nd Colby Alta feeder roads to the interchange, it's probably about 10 lane miles. That's gonna be October, so that's another one. So we have a lot of stuff coming up in 27, so we keep planning for more.
Guns Bluffs, our Parks Department, let the connector trail along Railroad Highway, we're rejecting the bids on that. About it for updates.
Can I ask, why are you rejecting bids? Just curious how that went.
They did not come back favorably.
So price too high, not technical line.
Nothing today, but if the whispers are true, maybe something next week.
The minutes were correct. I said that the ribbon cutting for the Gerard project would be Wednesday the 29th. Now I need to update that to Monday the 27th because Cunningham Lake is doing a thing on the 29th and apparently that's a bigger deal. Monday, April 27th, Gerard ribbon cutting, but glad to have that trail open. And again, that's the first piece of that long railroad and creek corridor intended to go from Keystone Trail all the way to the Missouri River. So glad to get people out to see what's been completed now and talk about the longer vision of active mobility east-west in Omaha, because we've had that big northwest to southeast thing, looking to go east-west now. So very excited about that.
I'll do additional business at the end. Anyone else?
City of Omaha's office can also be applying for a State Streets for All implementation grant, looking to improve Cuming Street from 27th to 10th Street. We're also looking to partner with the fire department on their blood program, but we're still MAPA City what strategy works best there. And then we're trying to also get some demonstration funding for additional quick build projects on our IU network.
The Leavenworth project, is that starting
Leavenworth project.
from 68?
Oh,
Is that
we're servicing?
Yeah. With the starting?
Not yet, that's this summer, they're just right under curb work, 88. What service striping?
Leavenworth from Saddle Creek to 68. I think we're gonna get some bike lanes in there.
Yeah, sorry, say that one again.
Leavenworth from Saddle Creek to 68.
Going west.
Yeah, just works.
Up the hill.
There's an existing westbound lane, I think, we got it for a bike lane for that 50 pit, so we're just extending that down to South Creek, so there'll be a safer climb up. Yes.
And then,
Right.
so that's a 4-lane section now. Is that implying a road diet with paint only to get the climb lane?
It's not a road diet, it is a lane
We're gonna use that, so. Yes, understood. So rather than 2 and 2, that's 1 and 1 with the shared lane?
Yeah.
But construction will be starting on some of the curb ramifications.
Yeah.
To make those more-
It'll follow the resurface. Right, it's gonna be resurfaced. Restripe.
Resurfacing first, then restriping. The Millville place, not reconstruction.
Right.
Resurfacing, restriping.
Yeah, but construction at 52nd, 58th, 57th.
And then, just to be clear, is that publicly announced? I think that will get a strong positive public response when you do get a chance to announce that.
Because they accidentally did.
That's a really good question.
It's supposed to be a surprise.
Okay.
That's a surprise.
Timing way to watch our public announcements before I give you big public appreciation. This is a public meeting though, just for the record.
Right, ribbons.
When we tie these, you know, if they're quick build projects, get tied to an operational activity like resurfacing. It's probably something that we need to work on and get better at doing public outreach. Traditionally, it's just been handled operationally.
Yeah.
And it happens. And so it's not like a big project we would announce and those kinds of part of our resurfacing package, as part of traffic operations. We'll put our heads together and figure out if there's a different, better way to go about
Yeah,
it.
I mean, it seems like an opportunity at the end to collect some kudos that will certainly be great.
Yeah, we'll get the kudos and we'll get the haters too, so.
I'm sure
Get all of it.
I would say talk to Julie, she would be glad to do whatever is necessary to help with the outreach.
It means that's just routine maintenance. It's like, we don't celebrate when Public Works goes out with their sweeper and cleans the streets, and then we don't have celebration parties for that.
Maybe we should.
But I mean, you know, I do commend them for this great work and great effort, I mean, like,
Just doing our job. What we do.
killing me.
Are there any other updates from people? I have something to contribute.
Go for it.
Go for it.
Voice of God.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, this is Damien. Hey, just an FYI for public meeting purposes, we do have a handful of public meetings coming up if anyone wants to attend. We have 3 stakeholder meetings for a District 1 Highway 92 275 expressway project, essentially from Meade all the way to Omaha. There are 2 stakeholder meetings, one in Meade on Tuesday, April 28th at 10 a.m. That's essentially invite only for stakeholders. There's another one in Elkhorn at, I believe, 4 or 4:30 on the 28th as well. That's at Elkhorn South High School. There's another one on the 29th, which is a Wednesday in Utan. And that one is at 11 o'clock in the morning. But then we have a public informational open house in Utan. So that's essentially open to everyone. And that is from 5 to 7 on Tuesday, May 5th. If anyone is interested in the future 4-lane out west, Douglas County. Eric, I think you and I have talked a little bit about the possibility of a trail, if there's any interest in something like that. So if anyone's interested in coming. And then we also have 2 public open houses for the US 75 corridor study. We have one in South Omaha on
May 7th?
Yes, May 7th at the Kroc Center. And then we have one in Bellevue at Bellevue University on Wednesday, May 13th. And that's just discussing the future reconstruction and interchange reconfiguration and everything that we're going to gut in the heart of South Omaha and Bellevue.
Damien, Eric, I'll get in touch with you about those stakeholder meetings and the public meeting. I am definitely very interested. It came up in another discussion last week, so I'll follow up. Thanks.
No problem. That's all I had.
I think that includes agency updates, any additional business.
I have a couple quick things. One, just a reminder, we'll be having our Council of Officials meeting coming up in June, where the topic will be talk about safety and safety throughout the region. How are we making steps and strides towards not just having a safety action plan, but implementing these safety actions throughout the region. We hope to highlight some of the work going on within the region. So super excited about that. The other big thing is, as we've discussed before, one of the things that we're keeping an eye on is the Basics Act, how the IIJA will be transitioning at the federal level. One of the ones that we're super excited about, and there's reading material, happy to discuss further and get more information. Our board is planning on supporting this and pushing forward that this bill moves forward. Some of the key things, looking at additional funding for bridges, additional funding for local communities, and additional representation through RPOs or regional planning organizations. for those communities that are not currently represented. Lots of good things, from a planning and from a local, funding question perspective. If you have questions, seek me or my staff, happy to have discussions with them. And I think that's it for me.
What else? Future meetings and events are listed in the agenda. No further business of between motion to draft.
So move.
Second.
Second.
Favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed. Thanks, everybody.